Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Gorman, owner of Creative Computing, Princeton's only Apple specialist store, located at 423 Wall Street, across from the Princeton Airport. Welcome to our show, Apple Talk by Creative Computing. Here we discuss everything Apple, from products to software, even technical issues. Okay, so today the biggest topic out there in Mac land is this Trojan going around. Now, Macs generally don't get viruses, spyware, malware, Trojans, etc. You name it, they generally don't get it. The one that's out there right now is called Flashback. It presents itself, meaning you'll see it on your computer, as a fake update to Flash. It looks really good. For the time being, if you really need to update your Flash software, just go to Adobe's site and download it. Approximately 600,000 Macs have been affected worldwide. The potential harm to it is it allows your computer to be remote controlled. That remote control isn't going to be to hack your banking data or whatever. It's going to be to use your Macintosh for some other purpose, such as if you made all 600,000 of them hit somebody's website all at the same time. That website might not be able to respond. It would go down. It's a tool like that. That's what it's good for. It starts a network of computers that can be used by somebody with generally malicious intent. If you keep up with your software updates and you're running OS 10.6 or 10.7, Apple will patch it for you automatically and you will become immune to getting this particular Trojan. If it's already installed, Apple is working at the moment on a removal tool that will again run on OS 10.6 or 10.7, which is Snow Leopard and Lion. If you need to run an older OS, or you are, Apple advises disabling Java in your browser, which you can do. There is a control panel for it, or system preference. There are a few tools out there that will check for the presence of this Trojan. There's one called Dr. Web. It's a fake. It's the one who made this Trojan in the first place. Apple's trying to shut down their website. If you go to Dr. Web and key in your information, you will help yourself get this Trojan. Don't go to Dr. Web. The one that we're using is by Kaspersky, which you can find at www.flashbackcheck.com. Apple is trying very hard to take away the domain name from Dr. Web via the registrar that holds it for them. And if you need, we will check your system for you, bring it into our office at 423 Wall Street, and remove it. There is a little fee, but we will take care of it for you. Okay, in other Apple news, on the iPad and iPhones, Apple is removing access to the UUID, which is the number that, or UDID I mean, which is the number that uniquely identifies your iOS device. The reason they're doing this is privacy concerns. By having your iOS or iOS device, iPad, iPhone, iPod, uniquely identified, it allows it to be tracked by things like websites, marketing companies, whatever it is. So Apple is slowly but surely disallowing any use of that unique number by app developers, meaning that your iOS device will no longer be uniquely identifiable. I like that. I think it's a good idea to be able to control your identity. It is useful for things like jailbreaking, but that's, Apple doesn't really care about that. They'd rather it didn't happen. So it's been a few weeks since the new iPad came out. I wanted to share with you our experiences so far. I haven't felt any real heat on ours. I think it's been pretty much negligible heat. No hotter than the old one, not even particularly hot to the touch. We have found that as far as accessories go, the soft accessories, like cases and the like for the old iPad, seem to work fine on the new iPad. Hard accessories like shells do not. They don't fit. It's just a little bit bigger. We have a handle that goes on the back of ours that no longer works. The Retina display, which I didn't think I was going to care about, is quite remarkable. It looks really, really nice. And the only other issue going on with it is some people have been complaining about difficulties connecting to Wi-Fi networks. As a short-term workaround, you can turn your Wi-Fi on or off. Apple has been replacing some iPads and trying very hard to identify the issue. I'm sure they'll get it solved. There's always something. A firmware update that will come automatically over the air will fix anything Apple finds. So it's not that big of a deal, but it seems to be the only real issue reported out there. With the Retina display, just on the same side, Mountain Lion is rumored to be being released alongside Retina display capable MacBooks. That's interesting. The MacBook having a Retina display will look so sharp and clear. If you take someone who doesn't know anything about computers and doesn't know the zillion reasons that a Mac is better than a Windows machine, and you start to compare specs, they both have, whatever gigahertz, this size hard drive, that much RAM, etc. And you can compare features between a Mac and a non-Mac like that. The Retina display is the first thing I think that's ever been released that is not directly comparable. If you want to get a Mac with a Retina display, you can't look at the equivalent on some other platform. I think that's a unique thing. It's the first time there's been something totally non-comparable associated with a Macintosh, or any computer for that matter. A lot of analysts out there have been saying that Mac users are holding off for a refresh. There hasn't been a refresh to the MacBooks or the MacBook Airs in, it's like 9 months, which is a long time for Apple. So rumors are strong that there will be a refresh with the release of Mountain Lion. I could see that being the case, and we'll report more about it on this show here on Apple Talk by Creative Computing. To keep going, while it's still on the iPad though, the iPad with the smart Bluetooth, the Bluetooth 4.0, there's a new spec that Bluetooth devices that you link with your iPad can now get GPS data. This is useful for taking a camera that has wireless, say, and no GPS. The camera, a handheld camera, could get GPS information from the iPad, and potentially, while it's at it, send the pictures it takes directly to the iPad for immediate viewing. There is a camera out there by somebody that does that. The Bluetooth spec was just released, though, so you won't find any devices yet. But I do see a lot of potential for devices being able to get GPS data without having their own GPS hardware inside. Keep going. iPads as textbooks. There's a school in the Netherlands that's switching to using iPads as the primary learning tool. They're going to give out 1 iPad per student. There'll be no textbooks at all. And the iPad will be used for web surfing. There won't be a computer lab. It's just the iPad. The textbooks will be on the iPad. The students will be able to write on the iPad and submit their work. Every last thing is going to be iPad. They're testing out whether that's actually a viable way to do education. In my opinion, I think there's a lot to that. It makes textbooks more functional. They become searchable, very easy to find what you're looking for, better than the index at the back of the book like we're all used to. You can highlight text. Right now, when a student gets a textbook, that textbook has to be kept in good shape for the student who gets it next year. In this case, using the iPads for the text, you can highlight, copy, paste, make notes in the book, everything you want, because it doesn't make a difference for the student next year. So it makes your textbooks more like you own them and more able to meet your educational needs. They're very cost effective too. I mean, an iPad, the retail price of the low-end one is $4.99. A school probably is paying maybe $3.99. That's US dollars. And that's a lot less than the set of textbooks that a student needs. Maybe not a lot less, but it's certainly similarly priced. And as soon as you get 2 years out of it, you've more than saved the money. I think it could be the future of education to use tablets or some sort of portable electronic device and not use textbooks any longer. And keep going in this area. Asus is a Windows-type computer maker. They have decided they want to become the top tablet maker outside of Apple. I'm amazed that a company would strive to be number 2. There's some companies that are always number 2, like Pepsi, Burger King. They're trying to get there. And now Asus just shooting for the number 2 tablet maker. They realize the number 1 tablet maker is just way out of their reach. Maybe that's a viable business model. Maybe you just give up beating Apple and try to work with whatever's left. I think that shows a lot on the power of Apple. The new iPads, various analyses from various companies that do this kind of thing show that in the 3 weeks that the new iPad has been for sale, it represents about 10% of all the iPads out there. That's a pretty good take-up for 3 weeks of iPads. Gartner predicts that Apple will maintain the tablet lead till at least 2016, which is another almost 4 years. Amazing thing to predict that. They also predict that there will be 98% tablet growth in 2012. Remember, you can come get yours from us. They predict 98 million total tablets to be sold this year. We'll be happy with one of those. 73 million of those being iPads. Those are amazing numbers. Especially with this economy the way it is, people go for the iPad. It's just a great product. Okay, continuing on, Siri. Just things I've been reading about Siri lately. Steve Jobs, met with the creators of Siri right after it came out because he was very impressed with the potential that it offered. I used to have Siri on my iPhone back when it was a text app before Apple bought it. And it was pretty useful. You had to type in what you wanted, but it pretty much did the conversation it does now, and it did it pretty well. It was obviously slower because typing's slower than voice, but it was a very nice app. So I agree with Steve at seeing its potential. I saw it then. Supposedly Apple paid $200 million for Siri. Now, I wasn't going to do that. But Apple paid $200 million for Siri, and there it is. And Steve, the other part I just found interesting is Steve didn't like the name, but he stuck with it. I think the name was a good thing to keep. If Apple had a TV, or you could talk to your Apple device connected to your TV in order to change channels, Siri is a very good word. It's not very likely to come out of the TV and have the Apple device hear the TV talk to it and give it commands. Especially if Apple leaves the word Siri out of the commercials, then it's pretty much a guarantee that you're not going to hear the word Siri coming out of a television. Hacked Siri. A lot of people with jailbroken iPhones and iPads have been hacking Siri to get it to work on devices that Apple doesn't support. Currently, Apple only supports Siri on the iPhone 4S. One of the jailbreak apps is an app called Spire, and Apple's been trying very hard to block it. It uses a third-party proxy server in the middle to talk to Siri, and Apple has put a unique code on the various iPhones to prevent them from using Spire. Rumors, I can't confirm this because, I can't confirm this, but rumors are that deleting one of the plist files that belongs to Siri will get around this. Can't say if that's true or not, but it certainly makes sense. And if your Siri's not working, it's certainly worth a try. Still on iOS. Griffin has made a toy helicopter. It's about this big, pretty nice, that runs on the iPad. Do you ever see, there's a James Bond movie where he's laying in the back of the car holding the little, his phone, it wasn't an iPhone, controlling the car. The controller for the Griffin Hilo TC looks just like that. You can hold your iPhone, do whatever it does, and the helicopter goes up and down, or you can put your thumb on the surface and control the helicopter. Very nice. I think it's about $60. We have them if you need one. In fact, I personally want to try it, so I think we're going to get one. iCloud. iCloud is very secure. Ars Technica, a technical research company out there, has investigated the security of iCloud. It uses an encryption standard called PBKDF2. It's all but impossible to break. If you had 20 million years to sit there and try variations of a password one by one, you might eventually break it. But of course, by then they won't be on version 2 any longer. So it's a race. It's all but statistically, it is an impossibility to break the encryption on iCloud. So all of your pages, documents, and your calendar data and address book and everything else that you keep on iCloud is encrypted. Email and notes are not encrypted. The reason is that they are kept in your email box. And Apple, like pretty much every other email provider that provides IMAP email service, does not encrypt the email because it's too big of a performance hit. When you're out there on your phone, which has the latest 50 messages on it, and you search on the server, if it had to decrypt every message on the fly in order to find what you're looking for, it would just take forever. So Apple and nobody else, for that matter, encrypts IMAP email. So your email is not encrypted. Supposedly in Mountain Lion, Apple is moving notes to their own app. If they do that, it's a strong sense that your notes will become encrypted as well, and it will leave only your email. But for right this moment, email and notes are not encrypted. Apple is also releasing for iCloud an iCloud control panel in iTunes 11 where you can control exactly how your iOS devices interact with iCloud. That should be good. What songs match, how do backups work, what do you back up, etc. A whole bunch of iCloud-related controls are coming to iTunes with Mountain Lion on iTunes 11. Moving on, while still on iOS, Apple bought a company called Chomp. Chomp has the ability, and they're supposedly incorporating this into the App Store, where you can search for apps based on just a vague description of the function. Find me a recipe app, or what app is it that can scan my network, whatever it is. And Chomp will enable you to find apps. It will make apps more accessible without having to decide what category it might be in. Sometimes it's confusing. Is an app business? Is it productivity? Reference? You can't really be sure. Chomp will help you find apps in a more broad description fashion instead of searching for the name. Should be pretty nice. Okay, moving a little bit past iOS. On the Olympics, in Apple's standard ability to prep very well for things that are happening, supposedly they are putting a whole lot of international iPad, iOS, Mac supplies at the Apple stores in London, so that if you go overseas to see the Olympics and you left your charger home, or whatever it might be, or you don't have the right charger for London, as the case may be, Apple is putting all the things that you're likely to need at the Apple stores in London to make them available for you. Very good idea, and it just shows the level of thought that they put into these things. Okay, moving on. FileMaker. Apple owns a company called FileMaker that makes a very nice relational database. It works on Mac or Windows. You can do your development on either one and view your databases on the other. There's an iOS app called FileMaker Go that goes with your database. We carry both FileMaker and FileMaker Go. The biggest changes in it are new graphic features. It does a whole lot of nicer visuals in your databases. And when you're designing your screens, you can now superimpose on your screen iOS templates, so you can see what your screens will look like on an iPad or on a phone and design accordingly. So if you're a database user, it's a very nice enhancement to FileMaker. It also has better performance, and this one I'm very interested in. On the iOS devices, FileMaker Go now really multitasks, which means that if you're looking at your database in FileMaker Go and you switch to some other app, check your email, whatever, and you go back to FileMaker, the database will be where you left off. You don't need to relog in, it didn't close. Much nicer, makes it much more useful on the fly. And another nice piece is the iOS versions are now free. They used to be $20 with FileMaker 11. Very happy about that. On third-party software vendors, Microsoft. Rumors are very strong that Office for the iPad is coming. Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. I'd like to see that. I'm sure they'll do something with either iCloud or some server of their own to enable you to access your Office documents on your iOS device as well as your computer. They do have Office 365, and that's probably the impetus for this. And I think that's a very nice thing. I think having Office on the iPad will allow Microsoft to better compete with Apple as far as pages and numbers go. And a lot of people use Office. It's very nice to have it on the iPad. Windows users all use Office. They can't even get pages and numbers. And will very much like Office for the iPad, and I think that will drive some sales. So I'm all for that. Totally support Microsoft there, and I'd like to have, and I'll get it when it comes out. Okay, moving on. Forrester reports 46% of corporations are now giving Macs to workers. That's huge. It used to be like 2% or one Mac in the art department kind of thing. We have a number of clients that do use Macs. One, I don't want to say the name, but we have one client, for instance, that uses Macs. They're a huge company, thousands of employees. They have 11 Macs in Princeton. And they use those 11 Macs for all of their courseware and all of their marketing. What could be more important than that is beyond me. But they keep those Macs isolated. IT doesn't support them. It's kind of crazy. But nonetheless, that's how it works. But the Apple growth is happening. The servers are cheaper and more reliable. The desktops are more reliable and last a lot longer. They're cheaper to own. They say that one IT person can support 100 Macs versus 20 PCs. That alone, in my opinion, should make it worth considering the Mac in business. Although that's been the case for many, many years. So I'm glad to see the tide finally turning. People are just sick of all the viruses and the not booting and all the hassles and everything else. It's just not worth it. And Forrester credits iOS devices. They say the ease of use of the iPad is what's causing corporations, businesses to look at the Macintosh as a viable platform to meet their needs. And the truth is it can do anything any other platform can do. Okay, moving on. The Department of Justice is suing Apple. They say that they're fixing the prices of books. Amazon had been doing what's called price dumping, meaning selling the books below market value, low cost, to boost the market share. Apple decided to let the publishers set the price so that they can compete with that and just get a flat fee to Apple. But Apple, in order to get that deal with Apple, Apple wanted what's called most favored nation status, meaning that the publishers would guarantee that nobody else selling their book electronically or whatever would have it at a price less than Apple. The Department of Justice is investigating those deals, and the things that I've been reading online about this indicate that the likely outcome is that The deal is fine, but Apple will have to give up the requirement for that most favored nation status. That way, publishers are free to make deals or whatever with other companies instead of, and this will prevent Apple from seeming to have control of the book pricing, which is what the Department of Justice is investigating. Adobe Reader has just been upgraded. With Adobe Reader now, you can add sticky note comments to your Acrobat PDF files, or Adobe PDF files. And that's on the Macintosh and on Adobe Reader for your iOS device, on the iPad. Very nice to be able to annotate. You can highlight text now with the free Reader version, and you can sign both digital signatures and with your finger. You can take your iPad and sign your name on a PDF and then email it out. So if you have to sign a contract or something, there it is, and send. Very nice little feature. It adds to the flexibility of the iPad. And since President Clinton, if you remember, his last law was allowing digital signatures, there it is. I think that's a very nice enhancement to Adobe Reader. Best Buy, and Apple, they sell apples, they compete with us, so I'm always glad when it's not going so great. Best Buy retail sales are very down. The retail chief is resigning due to this. I'm pleased to see it. Helps us here in Princeton. A lot of people, they say a lot of the reason is people are buying iPads instead of televisions, deciding, I don't need a big screen, this is a fine-sized TV. And that's been affecting Best Buy's retail business. Supposedly they're also closing a whole bunch of stores, hopefully ours. And a lot of people buy online these days and just go into the store for a price comparison. I even have an app on my iPhone called Red Laser that you can scan the barcode on something that they sell at Best Buy and see if it's cheaper anywhere in the neighborhood and anywhere online. Great little app. Everyone should get it. But at any rate, so Best Buy's retail chief is resigning, and I think that that's a good thing for us at Creative Computing. Remember, 423 Wall Street. Apple's data center in North Carolina. Aerial photos are now available, and you can see their solar farm and a separate area for fuel cells. Apple's trying to make the data center in North Carolina that supposedly runs iCloud to run fully on renewable energy. It'll stay on the grid. It has to stay on the grid in case it runs out of its own power or they have extra power, they need somewhere to put it. But if they could run that huge data center for free, that's a great thing. It's good for the environment, although they did have to cut down a whole bunch of trees to have a spot for the solar farm. But ultimately, it's a better thing for the environment. Hopefully they did something good with the wood. Apple's always been very big on trying to minimize their environmental impact. The boxes are getting smaller. They're putting more renewable packaging on the boxes. They're about to start a recycling program for batteries and old computers. And we will take your old Apple products. In fact, you can trade them in on your new Apple product. We'll give you something. If it's old and a piece of junk, you may only get $10. But either way, bring in your old Mac, your old iPad, and we will trade it in towards a new one, helping to recycle, and then we will recycle the old one. Next little bit of news. The FCC is working with cell phone carriers to make an IMEI database. An IMEI database is another unique identifier on your phone. It's the unique identifier that identifies your phone to the cell system. The UDID that we talked about identified your phone to apps. The IMEI database's purpose is that if your phone gets stolen, you can report it and they can add your IMEI to this database, and that will prevent your phone from being activated again with any other carrier. The idea is that this will take the value out of stealing a phone, make it not worth doing, because they know it'll only work for a few minutes till you report it lost. We spoke last time about the Logitech AirPlay speaker. This is a stereo speaker that has built-in AirPlay capabilities. So you can take your iPad, iPhone, iPod, and iPod Touch and wirelessly send your music to the Logitech speaker. And I predicted at that time that other companies would follow suit because of how cool and convenient it is. I predict lots of AirPlay target devices, both for video and for music. And following my prediction, Yamaha has just released a full line of AirPlay speakers, various qualities. They're expensive. They get as high as $1,000. But they're very nice audio equipment. If you're into your audio equipment, Yamaha is a really good brand. And the Logitech AirPlay speaker is very, very nice. Chrysler, on the 2013 Dodge Dart, has introduced an inductive charging bay. At the bottom of the center console under the radio, there's a space about this big, and you can put your iPhone or other device that needs power there, and it will charge while you drive. Still use it and everything. You've probably seen those flat inductive chargers that you're selling now look like jewelry boxes or whatever that you can put your phone in. Same idea in your car. Some other iPhone rumors that are out there that I'd like to just talk about. Supposedly the iPhone 5 rumors are it could have a 4-inch screen. I'd like to see the Retina display. That would be great on your little iPhone. Possible redesigned dock connector. I don't want to see that. There's so many devices out there that have the standard dock connector, and the iPhone, no matter what, is big enough. There's no reason to change the dock. All it has to do is power and control and data in and out. It does that fine now. I really hope they don't change the dock. The phone will also have 4G LTE, just like the iPad, of course. It makes sense. May as well use the higher speed internet that phone carriers are having available. Supposedly it will be unibody construction, so it will look like the way the MacBooks are, a single piece of metal with the one glass surface. Should make it stronger. There's also rumors of a possible A5X processor and the same 1 gig of RAM upgrade that the iPad got. I'd really like to see that. The 1 gig of RAM would be nice on the iPhone. There's a rumor of a related A6 processor for the iPhone in development. That makes sense. If they have an A5, they're obviously working on the A6, and as soon as it's released, they'll start on the A7. Corresponding to the iPhone 5 would be a 5th generation iPod Touch. Rumors are out about that too. Same idea, the A5 and 1 gig of RAM. And that's supported by, in iOS 5 and some of the developer builds, there have been, you can see the codes that talk about the devices. And there is a code for an iPod 5 that isn't out yet, so that adds some strength to it. And then the last rumor about it is a fall launch. The rumors are all these things will be launched in the fall. It's supposedly corroborated by Foxconn, which is a company in China that produces a lot of this stuff for Apple. One of their reps said that they got an order already and they predict a fall delivery. A couple more rumors and we'll be done. The iPad mini. I've been reading a lot about an iPad mini. Apple wasn't so into it, but Apple wasn't so into it at first, but now that the Kindle Fire is out there, they may be more amenable. The rumors that I've been reading are a 7.85-inch screen, 1024 by 768 resolution, not Retina display, but when you take a display that looks good like this and you make it this small, it's going to look a lot nicer. A thin bezel technology to minimize the edge and have the most screen space possible, which means your 7.85 screen might be on an 8-inch iPad. Supposedly it will cost no more than $299, and it's an easy way to compete with the Kindle Fire. And last thing for today, the AT&T is now unlocking iPhones. If your contract is over, your account's in good standing, they will unlock your phone so you can go to another carrier. They had been doing this previously for the military and with direct intervention by Tim Cook. Thank you for watching Apple Talk by Creative Computing. If you would like to suggest a topic or ask a question on our show, please email appletalk@creativecomputing.com. Please visit Creative Computing for all your Apple needs, sales, or service. We are located at 423 Wall Street across from the Princeton Airport on Route 206. You can call us at 609-683-3MAC. Visit us online at www.creativecomputing.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, join our circle on Google+. We look forward to seeing you. Mention our Apple Talk TV show to any sales staff and receive 10% off accessories.